What is up, you beauties? My name is BatchatBegins, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're actually going to be talking about another 8.7 buff slash rework, that being the IS-8, the Tier 9 Russian heavy tank leading to the IS-7. Now, I've always seen this tank as more or less just a medium tank. It has practically no armor to speak of. You're going to get pinned pretty much by anything in Tier 9, 8, or 10, no matter what you're facing, except for potentially Tier 8 medium tanks. Even they are not going to have too much of a hard time pinning this tank because of its armor. But the IS-8 did get a dispersion buff in the most recent patch, and it got a top speed nerf. Now, with the new dispersion, as you can see, if you're running both enhanced gun lane drive and vertical stabilizer, you can see that your dispersion is 0.326, which is actually not too bad. I would definitely not recommend running refined gun on this tank. It does get your accuracy down to 0.293, but you end up sacrificing a lot of dispersion on the middle. I mean, just look at that aftershot. You know, the dispersion on this tank, while it's not too bad, its like gun handling statistics are not great. So the problem with this tank is you have to figure out, you know, where you're going to position well in order to go ahead and make use of the semi-reliable turret armor. And I do say semi-reliable with full intent, because this tank definitely does not have the most reliable turret. It's more or less just the 260, the Object 260 at Tier 9. And because of that, you kind of have to use it in order to bully medium tanks. That is pretty much the best way to get the most out of the IS-8. So before we do get into the nitty-gritty details of the replay, we're just going to kind of go over just a little bit of the tank statistics, the equipment, just so I can show you exactly what the tank looks like as far as statistics, and if you wanted to see what equipment I run to help you out in your games in the future. Now, the armor, as you can see on the front, it's 191 on the turret, but it's not that incredible, and on the hull, it's only 120. There are mediums with more hull armor than that, so unfortunately, I can't give the IS-8 a pass. You know, it's fast, but it does not have armor. Now, as far as DPM goes, it's pretty substandard DPM for Tier 9. Now, keep in mind, I am running calibrated shells. In the first replay you will see today, I will be running rammer, and in the second, I'll be running calibrated, so determine which you like better, and you can just play off that. I would suggest trying them both out. Now, with calibrated shells, you get 271 AP pin and 374 heat pin. That heat pin is absolutely crazy good. That is the same heat pin you get on the IS-4, the same heat pin that you get on the T57 Heavy. I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic. And it's got very nice AP alpha damage at 420 and very, very nice high explosive alpha damage at 500. But the aim time and the dispersion, you know, not the best. 4.1 second aim time. I mean, that is just tragic. And the gun dispersion is nothing to write home about either, only coming in at 5 degrees. So you're definitely going to have to position this tank very carefully in order to use that 5 degrees of gun depression in order not to show that hull as you've seen before. Now, it did get nerfed on top speed. It used to go 50 kilometers per hour. Now it only goes 45. It does have a semi-decent power to weight ratio, but nothing spectacular to write home about. As I said, more or less, it's just a medium killer. As you can see, I run the multi-purpose restoration pack, the speed boost, and the adrenaline. I run 2 rations and fuel as per normal, a healthy loadout of AP and heat. And as far as my equipment goes, you know, got Cali, I've got both aiming time, and here I've got health, you know, the repair kit, and also engine accelerator. As per usual, you're going to see that a lot on this channel because I really like to increase the on-the-move characteristics of this vehicle. That being said, let's go ahead and hop into our first replay of the day, that being the IS-8 here on Dead Rail. Now, as you can see from their lineup, they do have an E50M, but they do have very, very strong heavies. You know, the AMX-50B, the E100, and the M103 can be strong in the hands of a good player. That being the case, I have 5 degrees of gun depression. I'm not going to be working hill very well at all. If anything, I'd have to overpeak the hill and give opportunity shots to those TDs, that being the E4 and the Hori Type 2. and I don't really feel like bleeding what little HP I do have in this tank. That's another thing. You don't have a ridiculously high HP pool for tier 9. And tanks like the E100, as you can see, with like 2700 HP, they're just going to trade with you, and you're just going to get absolutely wrecked if you are not careful. So be wary of your HP in this tank. You need to try and fire when people are distracted. As I've said in the last couple videos, this is definitely another tank that goes along in those lines. Because if you don't, you'll end up trading way too much, and this tank doesn't have fantastic DPM or anything. So its only real job is to try and be a bully with what HP it does have. As you can see here, the E100 is starting to rush down the middle. I figured I would go ahead and get a tracking shot. Looks like he does. Maybe he used his repair kit. It might have been that he just let the track repair normally. But at this point, we're being rushed down by something that's inevitable. You know, we're going to be taking this damage. So at this point, I'm just asking my platoon mate in the Vickers for some help. Potentially, we can hopefully bleed this guy out before he does kill us. I do damage his engine, and that lets us perform a side hug maneuver. Now, side hugging is really important when you're up against tanks that have a very tall stature and you are a little bit low profile. It lets you go ahead and hide the entirety of your hull, and the majority of the only spot they can pin is basically your roof or your engine deck. So you have to kind of wiggle back and forth and just hope that they do miss like the E100 does off of the roof of our tank. And at this point, because we have taken such a good hold of the heavy side, we're just going to, you know, strengthen our advantage here by using our DPM to help our Vickers platoon mate kill this M103. And then because we saw the E50M, the E4 go ahead and go towards our spawn, we're going to focus out the only other isolated target, that being the AMX-50B here in the mid. And you're going to see a very cool mechanic, which I'm sure plenty of you know, but I'm sure there are some people that don't know. You can get very, very good shots underneath the rails here on dead rail. You can use this on medium side, on heavy side, and this can help you absolutely take somebody out of the game, like this 50B, who unfortunately didn't realize that we had shots on him. Now you're about to see something crazy, and that's the IS-8 hitting snapshots, which it happens sometimes, but it doesn't happen all the time. But thanks to that increased, or well, the buffed dispersion in this most recent patch, it's definitely capable of hitting those shots more often. And you're about to see something really special here, which is a very, very nice front wheel track shot through the rails there on the E4. I'm sure if you guys practice those, you'll be able to hit them pretty often, and it is incredibly satisfying to be able to hit that in a tank like the IS-8. Now, after the first game, you know, what have we learned? Obviously, the IS-8 needs to be able to be flexible. It can definitely get taken advantage of if it's solo. If I didn't have any help with that E100, there's a very strong chance that I would probably lose that engagement, because he was getting near to getting me off of his side by using the building. But with that being said, obviously, you want to make sure that this tank is being an aggressive tank. You're trying to keep the enemies from teaming up on you. And you'll see that we do that here on Port Bay in our second game. Now, thankfully, in this game, we are top tier, and because of that, we're going to use our good mobility and somewhat decent armor to go ahead and push to the seaside. I've said this in other videos, I think, before, but obviously the A side on Port Bay is just not the way you want to go, fellas. Seaside is the most important part of the map. It has very long sight lines for the mediums. It has hills to help you with hold down heavies, and it has good spots for TDs, although TDs are definitely the weakest class to play on this map. And if you are in a TD, the best you can hope for is to help out with your medium tanks for the most part, or try and flank. Now, if I do see you flanking in a TD on Port Bay and you just stop to cap, I'm probably going to flame you, because that's not the smartest idea. And another thing to talk about, as you can see, is the IS-8 does have some issues with its on-the-move turret dispersion. I'm turning the turret, and you can see the bloom is not fantastic, so I do have to let it aim. You know, I have to be careful with this gun. Otherwise, all of my 2300 DPM will be completely useless. Now, I will say I got very, very lucky to bounce that E75 TS off of my front, and now all we're doing is trying to back up a little bit so he doesn't get free shots into our side. But with that being finished, now me and my platoon mate in the Waffle do have a pretty good flank going on. Obviously, the 50 TP is going to have to watch out for us, But in the meantime, we can just go ahead and use that 374 millimeters of heat pin just to butter right through the front plate of the T-55A. A tank that, in my opinion, definitely deserves to see a buff sometime in the future, because it is practically not worth buying over the AMX-31er. But we'll talk about that in a different video. As you can see, the T-55A is backing off. He doesn't really want a piece of us right now, and I can't get shots on the SU-130PM or the 50 TP. So we're just going to go ahead and hit that speed boost, get ourselves some more acceleration coming down the hill here, and we're going to flank their team, which has decided to go through the B cap over to our side. We do get shot here from the rear. Looks like our 55A friend has decided he wants to try and get us out of the game, but thanks to some careful positioning, we are able to go ahead and get behind the mill, and our platoon mate does finish him off, which lets me go ahead and side scrape up to the AMX CDA, and potentially, not close enough. Unfortunately, we did just barely miss the track shot there on that vehicle. But because he is such low health and we have 3 or so friendlies here backing me up, I was sure they were going to go ahead and take him out. But this is the point where the IS-8 really does shine, and that is bullying other heavy tanks that are slower and immobile. I'm doing the same exact thing I did to the E100 earlier to this VK100, showing him only my turret and trying to make him bounce or miss. And in this case, we did get a very, very nice miss there from the VK100. And we're going to put a very good shot into his side, clearing that tank, and we're already up to 3.8k. I mean, this tank, if you're able to get the right scenario, if you're able to have people push with you, this thing can be a menace. It just needs to have those factors going for it. Now, I will say there are definitely some losses that I've had in the IS-8 today, and that is completely down to this tank having subpar accuracy, you know, overall, and it having not the greatest DPM in the world. I mean, like, if I'm missing shots, it's gonna take me another 10 seconds. It's gonna be a while before I actually get my DPM to work in this tank if you do, you know, rush your shots. But if you are able to get your shots to work and you're able to bully people with not only your platoon mates but your friendly team, you can absolutely wreck an enemy team. And with the knowledge that I know that the SU-130PM and the Scorpion G don't have spall liner, I went ahead and loaded HE there and got 2 very, very nice HE rolls into that vehicle. And thanks to that, that actually brings us up to just shy of 5.3k. Mastery badge, 119,000 credits, and we also managed to pick ourselves up a high caliber medal as well. Very, very nice game from a tank that I think is severely underrated. I definitely wouldn't say it is up there in the top 10 at tier 9 of vehicles, but it's definitely a tank I think you should check out before you write it off. Certainly is quite fun when you can get it to work, as you can see in these 2 battles today. Well, guys, that has been the video today. My name has been BatchatBegins. I hope I will see you guys on the stream tonight. We are going to be doing a 60 TP grinding stream because I want to get that thing to 100 battles. So I hope you'll come and suffer along with me. If you don't, understandable, but I'd love to see you there. It's been your boy, BatchatBegins, and I will see you guys in the next one.